Thank you very much, Janet, and good afternoon, everybody. It's kind of hard to come just after this exclusive panel, I've had to do quite some edits during the talk because the words of AI and like that was appearing many times, and so in my manuscript. So I'll hope not to talk too long and not to bother you too much, so you can have your coffee and your sweet very soon. I'm going to talk about two topics, two drivers for aviation, not only aviation safety, but as a sector at large. One is digitalization, the other one is sustainability. They will most likely transform the entire ecosystem of aviation. Let me start because there are two quite different drivers. Digitalization first. I think it's safe to say that 50, 60, 70 years ago, aviation was at the forefront of technology, of applying technology. But I would argue the high complexity of aviation combined with coexistence of legacy and modern systems in the same system, you don't have a clean new aviation system. There's a lot of old things there. Key data are dispersed among multiple actors in the value chain. There's not one single organizer of the value chain who kind of compiles the whole thing. It gives some restraints on how fast you can digitalize. Additionally, the fact that aviation is a safety critical factor with a complex safety assessments, demonstrations, certifications, approvals, oversight, it adds barriers for fast applications of new technologies. You could go as far as arguing that although we as authorities are trying to support new technologies, as safety authorities, we are also in our DNA a bit conservative in the sense that we know what works. So it takes some kind of persuasion to go into the new areas. It's also built into the rules. You need to test and test and test and try before actually go out there and fly. Aviation is catching up. We see digital evolution, if not revolution, driven by advancements, big data, data analytics, AI, we have spoken so much about already, automation, and new sorts of connectivity. We try in EASA to support the development in many ways. We are trying to adjust our regulatory framework and the oversight methodologies to the introduction of new technologies. Rules are always behind technology. That's a matter of fact, not only in aviation. But take a simple example of licenses. We're still obliged by our own rules in Europe and by ICAO rules as well, so we're not alone, to issue paper licenses. This is clearly wrong. Everybody agrees this should be changed. But to make that change for three different well-established domains, pilots, ADCOs, maintenance, takes some time. We're almost there. We come out with some rule proposals very soon, but it's not happening overnight. So a clear example, we try to follow pace with the regulation updates, but it takes time. We're also realizing that aviation is global, trying to reach out to other leading aviation authorities in the world to achieve mutual recognition and interoperability of digital solutions, starting with very simple things like a digital signature. We have in Europe our system, blessed by the Commission, the digital signatures. In Brazil or in the US, they have another. Do we recognize each other's digital signatures of the bunch of papers, physically or electronically, we want to submit to the authorities? Not yet. We're getting there, but again, it takes some time. One of the most immediate impacts of digitalization is the streamlining of airline operations. We see the introduction of AI-powered system to improve predictive maintenance, as was mentioned several times in the previous panel. Instead of waiting for a component to break down, advanced algorithms now analyze data from sensors embedded in the aircraft to predict when the maintenance is required. Well, everybody will support that. It's coming. It should, though, be seen as this is a pioneering work. If you look at the main body of the sector, the aviation sector, and maintenance, and so on, they're not there right now. It's still a long walk. And again, our regulations is not really anticipating this. So here we see the pioneers. They're working on it. They're pushing us. They're pushing the supply chain. That's fine. That's how it should be. And we will gradually move there. Another example of integrated is integration of automated systems in air traffic management. Here we have the help of a large research backing by the CSR program, and definitely it will help optimize a lot of things in the operations, reduce fuel burns, also improve safety. So it is coming also here. We see it also on the grounds, in the airports. Smart airports are emerging, using technologies, biometric screening, etc. Actually giving passengers a much more seamless flow through the airport. Digitalization will also have an impact on jobs. Digitalization is reshaping the function of staffs. We have touched it before today. Automation will clearly replace manual tasks or repetitive tasks, but it's also creating new roles focused on managing and maintaining these complex systems. The shift means that there is growing need for scientists, cybersecurity, system engineering, data science. Personally, I don't believe that new technologies will reduce jobs overall. If we look back in the history, the last 100, even 200 years, that has not been the case. But it's rather a shift. And this shift, of course, is painful for some of the workforce with the old competences, and where the willingness or ability to change into the new competences may be hard or difficult. But as a sector, we need to address this. We will also have to fish into the new ponds of educations where aviation is not the first thing coming up on the screen of the new candidates. I believe that tomorrow David Mercer will have a flash talk where he will go deeper into the topic of how to deal with the new generation workforce. Let me change to the other topic, sustainability. I think we all know that is a critical driver for change. We are particularly exposed in aviation, facing high pressure from very vocal environmental associations and activist groups, Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, Extinction Rebellion, there are more. And expectations also from the broader and perhaps more silent population as well. Our politicians are usually mirroring people's concerns. So what they say is not invented by politicians. They are a kind of mirror of what is happening out there. When you meet politicians today and say you come from aviation, it's not unlikely that a common response could be, well, can we have a bit less of that? That's where many of the politicians are today. And that's a challenge. Aviation sector stands perhaps out from other industries for several reasons. Quite high CO2 emissions per passenger kilometer. Immediately available technological alternatives are indeed limited. And emissions of CO2 at high altitudes have more impact than on the ground. So it's all factors which are stones on the road, makes it more difficult for us than several other sectors to move ahead. And we know also from daily media that other sectors are indeed also struggling. One important avenue for decarbonizing aviation is obviously development of new fuels, sustainable aviation fuels, SAF, stemming from biosources. Everybody speaks about it now, but progress has been quite modest until now, and the road ahead remains also a bit uncertain. SAF could potentially reduce life cycle carbon emissions by up to 80% compared to traditional jet fuels. But scaling of production, achieving widespread adoption is far from straightforward. Some airlines, we see that, have begun incorporating SAF into their operations. It's not cheap. But very big hurdles remain economically, technologically, before SAF becomes a mainstream solution. Another important aspect of reducing the carbon footprint is development of electric and hybrid aircraft. Startups, established manufacturers are working on electrical planes for short-haul flights. We still need to see how this market develops, how the business models are actually going to operate, especially in Europe. There are still substantial technical challenges, and the practical application is still at quite early stages. We've been speaking a lot about this field for quite some years, but we're far from being in business, so to speak. Hybrid aircraft, blending electric and traditional propulsion, may offer some transitional steps, but also here there's no clear way forward, especially for the longer flights. There may be a segment in the middle, but if we're going into traditional CAT operations, it's not very clear what will happen there. So the further development of these technologies, along with the business models, will take time. There's a lot of research and development going on, fortunately, into the next step, hydrogen, as a potential future technology, fuel cells or direct burn. I believe all key industry players in the EU are engaged here. And at some point, there may be a need for a collective decision whether aviation will go towards hydrogen as one of the new future fuels for larger aircraft. Again, it's difficult to just carve a segment in the market and say, okay, now we have a new hydrogen aircraft, we get going, because you need ground infrastructure, you need a lot of other things apart from safety certification or all this. So it's a system decision, so it's not just one very pioneering manufacturer or innovator who can push this through. As a certification authority, we have the privilege to hear and learn about the new emerging innovations in aviation quite early. It allows us to see firsthand the potential of many of these solutions, but also certainly the challenges lying ahead. I can tell that what we see looks promising, but it may be not enough to reach the set goals by 2050. So, as it looks right now, there is a need for industry to try even harder and further ramp up the efforts to develop and implement new sustainable technologies. In EASA, we are ready to support the efforts to bring the much needed new technologies safely to the market. And we also recognize it's a long journey. So awaiting these technological breakthroughs with the new propulsion energy sources, aviation must, in parallel, continue to improve the environmental performance incrementally. One example is a push for more efficient aerodynamics of aircraft. Smart or active wings is one element. To develop lighter materials, more fuel-efficient engines, as we have seen well progressing in the past years, and we're confident that that can continue. But it will be incremental innovations, incremental improvements, not huge improvements. Going green is not only about the aircraft. One of the biggest challenges lies in the infrastructure, as I shortly mentioned. Airports will need to make large investments in green energy solutions, no matter what energy source we're talking about. Charging stations, for electrical aircraft, pipes and tubes for SAF and hydrogen. This transition will require advanced technology on one hand, but also substantial financial investments. And here there is a high risk of a lock-in. Who dares to invest these high amounts to get the new sustainable solutions operative, while the market's demand is still small? Chicken and egg. Who moves first? Who will take the substantial investments and move there? Something cannot also be done and is done at individual passenger level. Many are, as I said, becoming more conscious about their carbon footprints. Many airlines are today offering various kinds of carbon offset programs as part of the booking process. EASA is trying to support this trend. As of next year, airlines operating flights within the EU or departing from the EU will be able to voluntarily join the new initiative called the EU Flight Emission Label, FEL. So when booking a flight, you can see the emission data, and you can take you can take informed decisions on with whom you're going to fly. Also, a dedicated web page will be created to allow the public to compare emission levels from different airlines competing on the same route and ranking those with lowest emissions per route. So this is one of the things that we can contribute from the agency side to gently push everybody in the direction of being more, having less carbon footprint. To sum up, digitalization and sustainability are reshaping the aviation industry in profound ways. Digitalization is making air travel safer, more efficient, and personalized, while sustainability is an urgent challenge, putting actually the reputation of the entire sector at stake. More clearly has to be done here. Both will have far-reaching effects, not only on how passengers experience flying, but also on job skills, infrastructure that supports the industry. I believe later today and tomorrow, the panels and flash talks will offer the opportunity to further explore some of these issues. Thank you very much.